Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast that has no name, and that's not the name of it, it just doesn't have a name. I'm Kit Dale, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, two-time world pro champion. I want to talk about something today that's really important. Is strength and athleticism beneficial to you, or is it detrimental to your progression? Now, this is a really important question because it does take a little bit of reflection to get to the conclusion that I've come to. So bear with me, and I hope that I can articulate this as smoothly as possible. But it is a little bit of a mindfuck. The first thing I'm going to look at, okay, is a quote that Bill Gates uses, and I'm not going to use it directly because I can't remember how it directly goes. But basically, for a really difficult problem, he would get the laziest person in the room, because the lazy person would find a very energy efficient way to get the job done. Now, this is super important. One, super important in your progression. One, and I know from my experience because I'm a very, very lazy person. Sorry, Mum, but I'm lazy. And it helped my progression a lot in jiu-jitsu because I never settled for like one way of doing things. I was always trying to find a more energy efficient way of doing things. Now, it's very easy to get caught up in just trying to force things on or make certain things happen, but you've sometimes got to put yourself in a lazy position to really force yourself to come up with a very energy efficient way of getting the job done. If you look at jiu-jitsu and problem solving, I mean, it's just consistent problems that you need to solve. And the person that's better at solving those problems in the most energy efficient way is better at jiu-jitsu. If you can defeat your opponent without using any energy, then that is mastery, depending on, of course, what level your opponent is. But that's what the goal should be, is to get the job done, submit your opponent, defeat him however you need to, but with as little energy as possible. But it's very easy to get sucked in to the realm of using athleticism and strength, which is what a lot of people do. Now, the problem with that is that you start becoming reliant on that. People get addicted to winning, and you start beating people, and especially at the start, if you're strong at the start and you rely on that strength and conditioning, it's like a 15% increase of how well you go. If you start beating people using it and you become reliant on it and you enjoy beating people, it's very easy to get addicted to using that. And it's going to hinder your progression, and I'm going to explain to you guys why. If you look at jiu-jitsu in the sense of problem solving, you've just got continuous problems in front of you that you need to solve, and you want to become a better problem solver. Well, becoming a better problem solver is no different from becoming stronger or less scared of things. If you've got certain phobias, sometimes by exposing yourself to those phobias, can you get over them? If you have too much exposure, then it can be really bad. But I'm going to talk about the fine line of it. And if we even use the example of strength, and you want to get stronger, what do? Well, you need to stress your muscles to a certain point, not too much that you break the muscle, and not too little that it's unaffected, just enough so it breaks it down a little bit, and the body decides that it needs to get stronger to deal with that workload. And that's kind of what the body does. As an evolutionary standpoint, we kind of develop in a way to become immune or protected from whatever we are exposed with. If you look at kids that eat more dirt, their immune system develops better because it has to. Your immune system's like, okay, we're getting fucking dirt and snails in here, guys. We need to, pump up the immune system to stop this kind of stuff. Now, if you look at problem solving in jiu-jitsu, to become a better problem solver, you need to be exposed to problems, and you need to get good at them. The problem is, if the problem is too great, then it can kind of fuck your mind up, and you just end up having a brain fart. And then what you'll want to do is use your strength and athleticism to smash it instead. If the problem is too small, then you're not really going to be stimulated by it and learn much from it. So you need to find that perfect line. Now, the strength and athleticism is really important because, if the problem is this hard and then you use strength and conditioning, well, you're going to make it a lot easier on yourself. If for anyone that's listened to the podcast, I was doing things with my hands, so don't worry about that. It's not going to make any sense. So you want to find that fine line. And I feel like I've found it. And what I tend to do is I want to win every role. That's really important to me. I don't want to lose roles. Okay, I think that's a bad habit for people to do. But I want to win it with as little energy as possible. To do that, I just tailor off my energy. I act as if I'm super lazy or I'm super weak I pretend that, so that I have to rely on technique. I have to rely on proper timing. And when I say timing, I don't mean reaction speed. I mean real timing. Your ability to manipulate your opponent. That's what timing is. Timing isn't doing something really quick. Like Bruce Lee said, if you punch too quick, the opponent's not there yet. You punch too slow, he's already gone. Timing is about finding the right time to punch. Now with jiu-jitsu, it's about finding the right time to do whatever it is you're doing. And that's subjective to the situation. But a big part of that is manipulation, confusing your opponent, making your opponent think you're looking left or moving left when you're moving right. As examples by Sun Tzu from Art of War. So that's what timing is. So your ability to do that is going to be based on how much exposure you have to it. You have to expose yourself to that. If you imagine your strength and athleticism as armor, well, it's going to help you when you have that armor. But to really strengthen or develop technically, to develop the strength of your actual body, not your armor, you have to make yourself vulnerable. You have to remove that armor. Otherwise, you're just going to strengthen that armor. The armor is going to protect your body. There's a really good saying, the stronger the walls, the weaker the person. The weaker the walls, the stronger the person. What that's kind of saying, if you're protecting yourself from the elements, then you're not going to develop to deal with the elements. If you over protect or when you're bringing up a child and you overprotect him and you hide them from any kind of elements and any kind of dangers, well, you're going to leave that child very vulnerable in the long run, because they're not going to develop to deal with those kind of things. The same thing happens with bullying. If you live in Australia and you've made it to 30 years old, you've got pretty fucking tough skin, because everyone teases everyone and everyone takes the piss out of everyone. It's a cultural thing. We don't take it too personally. It's just something that you do. And it's the same thing. If you do it too much to someone, then they can get very upset and maybe suicidal. If you don't do it enough to someone, you're going to leave them very vulnerable for the real world. So you've got to find a fine line between, a healthy amount of bullying to make them develop tough skin. I think that's really important for children. I think if you take that away from people, they're going to be very vulnerable when they see what the real world it is, and it's not all fun and games and fucking rainbows. So there's an element to that where you need to understand that your strength, it's like a handicap in golf, it's like armor. You need to remove that to make yourself very vulnerable to be able to develop technically. Otherwise, you're always going to rely on that. And the thing is, when you rely on your strength and conditioning and you start getting older and you get, to your 40s and 50s and you no longer have that strength, then you're going to see how much jiu-jitsu really sucks and how good you really are. Or you're an athlete, you're using steroids to win the worlds, and then suddenly you're not using steroids anymore because you've got some heart condition, and then you realize how fucking hard jiu-jitsu really is. That happens to a lot of people. They become very reliant on that strength because they become addicted to winning. They identify as a winner, so they try and do everything they can possible to win. And I'm telling you, that's cool for in the short term. That can work. But in the long game, it's going to be more detrimental to your progression than it is beneficial. It'll slow you down. You need to understand that jiu-jitsu is a long game thing, or you should treat it like that. And if you are relying on strength and athleticism, it's going to slow down your progression technically, and you are going to one day regret it, because you're going to be not as strong as what you used to be, and the people that you used to beat, you will no longer be able to beat, because the moves that you used to use, you can't use now, because the force that you used to use to put it on is no longer around, and you're going to have to develop technically then, and it's going to be too late. So I advise anyone, if you're watching this right now and you understand what I'm saying, when you're training, remove that strength. If everyone's beating you, cool, okay, you can still use it, whatnot. But if you're starting to beat people, and there's usually someone that you can beat, that's where you need to tailor that off. Imagine you have no strength. And don't be too quick as well. Some people try and act too quick. The problem with using speed to win jiu-jitsu is that you miss a lot of stuff. If you look at jiu-jitsu in the fundamental sense of, it's about trial and error and learning from your mistakes. Well, if you're moving so quick, it's very hard to see what your mistakes were. Even the things you did good, it's very hard to see what that is, because you're not able to read it. You're not able to see it. It's too quick. It's like trying to skim read a book and then tell a fucking story about it. I'm going to tell you, probably unless you're an expert skim reader, you're probably going to have no idea what happened. You want to really slow things down. Anything that you can do slow, you can do fast, but it doesn't always happen the other way around. So that's my advice. If you want to do that, take away your strength and athleticism. This isn't for competition training. When you're training for competition, well, then you need to get in there and give it, you know, everything you got and get used to that. But if you want to develop fundamentally, technically, and get all that timing, I advise to remove as much of that attribute of strength and speed as you can in athleticism, and force yourself to develop technically, and you'll have a lot better jiu-jitsu. Then whenever you want, you can turn on the strength and conditioning. And if you don't have strength and conditioning, well, that's good. You don't need it. It's really not going to help you that much. And if you want to develop it outside of jiu-jitsu. Get a good strength and conditioning program and use that. But try and use that only for competition to help your results in competition, because it will take away from your training. And I've seen this, many people do this, where they get really big and strong and then they get worse at jiu-jitsu. One, it takes far more blood and oxygen to fuel those muscles, and you get tired quicker, and you start relying on that. I've done it myself. It made me worse. I'm actually quite a solid looking person, but the only reason I have that is because of genetics. I've actually come from a very strong family with giant penises. So that's, you know, the way we are. But if I wasn't like that, I'd probably be skinny, because I'm very lazy. And if I am doing weights, it's only to look good for movies. It's got nothing to do with my jiu-jitsu. It actually takes away from my jiu-jitsu. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. Please let me know. Also, if you are one of the customers that come and bought our products on Black Friday and Cyber Monday, thank you very much. We sold over 700 copies, which is really good because it helps me put a lot more money into future products. I want to create products that are going to blow anything away that's in jiu-jitsu at the moment. I want much better production value, a much better delivery, and a much better system for you to help you guys learn. So thank you so much for supporting me, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't seen any of my videos, go to kitdaletraining.com and check them out. I've got about 7 or 8, plus I've got other videos like I'm doing right now there as well on my YouTube channel as well, Kit Dale. Check them out. Otherwise, please let me know what you think in the comments, whether you agree with me, whether you disagree with me, and I'll get through and read all of them and write back. And thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and take it easy, guys.